2, 3. Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
Wow. I just finished a podcast with Trish Attia, who is an amazing therapist. But more personal to me, she has been a mentor, a supervisor, a guide, and a teacher to me for many years, over 20 years. And I was actually nervous to have her because I really respect her that much. She's also one of the co-presidents of Our Place. She's been involved in the process the whole time. And she really is quite inspiring. And I really hope you enjoy this as much as I did. All right, we're on.
Hey, Sonny.
Trish. Okay, I was just saying before, I'll just say it again because I just said it to you, that this is, I think, the first podcast I am nervous starting. Let me explain that to the audience because you looked at me and said, why are you nervous? And with very compassionate eyes, like a therapist. But I realized that in my life, in this career, there are two people. This is not the intro, but there are two people, like you and Chaim Glantz, that have been a constant in my life throughout this. You have been a guide and a mentor and a supervisor for me. I'm just adding Chaim, but we won't give accolades to Chaim right now. But and we've spoken about everything and anything in the world. Is that true?
That is true.
So when I was thinking about, first of all, being super excited to have you on the podcast, when I was thinking about it, I was like, what are we going to talk about? We could talk about anything and everything forever. That being said, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Okay.
Maybe also a little nervous.
What? You're also a little nervous?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are you nervous?
Because once you say things, you can't unsay them.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, we could edit them technically.
You probably don't do that much.
I don't do that at all.
Right.
Yes, you're 100% right. Once you say something, you're in trouble. Right. But what I did want to talk about is a little bit your story of coming into the community and getting connected with, it started with Our Place, right? I mean, sort of. And to me, that's just such an exciting story that I want to start there. So how did this happen?
Tell
us the story. Yeah, let's hear the story.
Okay, so I was working for a corporation for quite a couple of decades. We had drug and alcohol programs, inpatient and outpatient, psychiatric treatment programs, inpatient and outpatient, and I was an adjunct professor at Yeshiva University School of Social Work.
Right.
One day, the dean called me, and I was very nervous, like the principal calling. And he explained that a drop-in center had just opened in Brooklyn, and they wanted somebody to come and speak to their volunteers about addiction, because they noticed at this drop-in center that a lot of the guys had addiction. So this was, I think, 99.
Probably 2000. Is it possible 2000?
2000.
I feel like it was 2000.
2000. And I remember the dean said that you are going to be talking to a group that doesn't believe we at YU do enough for the community. And that was my first understanding that all the Orthodox weren't one community. Right. I thought you're Orthodox. I didn't know it broke down, from there. And so I went to give this presentation, and they sent.
Wait, can I just ask you?
Yes.
Do you like laugh at yourself when you think of that? Like,
Oh, there's a lot I laugh about.
okay, all right.
I was listening to an old tape where somebody said, my parents were Baal Tshuva, and I said, what's that? So clearly, when I hear myself from 20 years ago, I knew nothing,
Right.
like really nothing about the Orthodox community.
Wow. Well, what a welcome you got.
Right. Well, I had actually a great welcome because when I went to do this presentation, this group kept interrupting me. It was more fun that I'd been doing a lot of public speaking at that time of my career. And these people were engaged and challenging and questioning. And, instead of like what I was used to, it's just kind of everybody sitting quietly taking notes.
Right.
So I really enjoyed it. And then they started asking me in between lectures. I was going to come every month, but some of the volunteers started asking me in between, what do I do with this case and that case? And then I decided to go get my doctorate. And I believed I was getting my doctorate in order to teach and become a professor.
Right.
The one thing I did not want to do with 100% certainty was have a private practice.
And that's all you do. That is majority of your time right now. Okay.
So my first day of school for my PhD, there were all these assignments. You look at the syllabus, right? We all do that. We go, right, what are my assignments?
Right.
And they were all about take a client and do a family genealogy, take a client and do, this, that, the other. And I didn't have any clients because I was just doing corporate world, setting up these programs. And the guys from our place, this drop-in center, kept saying, wish you would treat clients, wish you would treat clients. So I started treating clients for the Our Place guys. And that was probably, like we said, 99 or 2000.
Right.
And
this is when I was also coming in. I remember all this. It's like old ancient history.
It's ancient history. And so I started my private practice at that point, and I met the most amazing people, like Chaim Glantz, who you mentioned, his wife Shifra, you. I met all these wonderful Orthodox people, and I thought, maybe there's something to this Orthodoxy. Everybody's so nice. And so I started my own journey in terms of Orthodox Judaism.
That I always find fascinating. No, I'm saying starting that journey, because you've mentioned this to me before, like you're probably the only person who's seen the roughest parts of a community,
Right.
and in spite of that,
Right.
just started your own journey into the community.
But it's an incredible community from the Chesed point of view. I can't imagine another community that gives as much to one another, to strangers. And I thought that everybody was like Chaim Glantz. I thought, oh, that is what it's like to be a frum person. Well, look, that's very good. He's very kind to people. I should shoot for this.
Right.
Hashem didn't choose to introduce me to people that might have turned me off for probably a decade.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a nice group of people there.
Right. My clients never turned me off. I mean, I always saw them as people.
I know, but within the context of your clients, you've heard some real horror stories along the way.
I have.
And some of them were perpetrated by people that represented the community.
Right.
That is the part that I always was like, wow, how could you not have a sour? Because you've always been incredibly positive about the Jewish community, the Orthodox community. And
Right.
Wow.
Right. Well, I guess Hashem showed me the right people first. And
Right.
for long enough. that it really stuck.
So you, okay, so you brought up the kind of joining the Orthodox community, I guess, with your own journey. How did that journey go? How did
I'm still on it.
I know, but like,
Oh.
talk about your journey.
Well, it's I love my journey. I don't get annoyed with it. It's slow, which I think has been really helpful for me. I feel connected most of the time, and that feels really important. I did a group earlier today with some mothers, and Sarah Gitty, who's been helping me with this group for a long time, she made it so simple. She said, when you don't know what to do, stop. Ask yourself, what does Hashem want me to do? Then, if you can't do it, you figure out what's in the way and try to move it aside. Isn't that simple?
It sounds too good to be true.
Right? It's much harder to do than to say. But I love my journey. I have no idea, where it's going to end. I guess our journeys don't end until we're 120.
Right. I have to introduce you. My wife listens to someone named Daily Bitachon.
Oh.
He's a Sephardi rabbi. Oh, he's not a rabbi. He's a businessman. And every day he talks about bitachon,
Right.
faith. And he makes everything seem so simple.
Right.
It's all like all that advice. He's got thousands of people listening to this 5-minute clip. I got yelling.
That sounds great. I would love to hear that.
He's absolutely hilarious. He's not trying to be hilarious, but he's got this, like Syrian awesomeness. Like he's got the Brooklyn Syrian mix, and like if you don't have faith, like what's wrong with you type of thing. Like how could you not have faith?
We work with so many people whose faith has been shaken that to give them that kind of advice would almost be insensitive and stupid.
Right. It's true.
Right?
Well, I don't talk about it much, but I feel like my faith has been very shaken. I don't talk about it much, but I definitely, I don't know how much it's connected to the work I've done, but I really struggle with the amount of pain that's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's sometimes it's hard to look up and just be grateful when you're sat with just one horror after the next during the day. So I always look up to you. You're going in the other direction of me a little bit,
Yeah.
my journey has been my whole life. And some days I don't even know if I have, I don't have anything left in the tank to be faithful about.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess it's for another time. But
Right.
but I always was amazed because we're talking about the same cases. I'm constantly telling you.
Right.
If I have a really bad case, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
You got to know about it.
Right. I also want to say that I had a really good start in life. Thank God, because I had really healthy parents. And I grew up in a really healthy, loving home.
Right.
And I don't think there are so many people, sadly, that could say that.
It's true. And I want to tell you something. It's something I've asked you before, but I don't know if I ever got the real answer. Why did you become a therapist?
Right, because it was not to heal myself.
It doesn't make any. And the two people I work with is Chaim, who also talks about his great childhood.
Right.
And you two are both. I mean,
right.
I had my challenges definitely, so for me it makes some sense.
Right.
But what would make you? You understand the question?
I do, and I'm really not sure, because since I was 100% certain I wasn't going to become a therapist, and here I am. So I guess I would just have to say it was all Hashem's doing.
Right.
Because I really never, even when I consciously set out to get my doctorate, it was to become a professor. So the last thing I really wanted to do. So I think it came from going with the flow. That on some level, even before I was connected, I didn't work too hard to make things happen.
Right.
I just kind of, situation presents itself. You take a look at it. Does it make sense or not? And with real forethought, for one of the first times in my life, I said, I'm going to get my PhD in order to be a professor, not to have a private practice. So here is one of the times in my life that I didn't just go with the flow. I had an absolute plan and didn't work the way I had thought.
Right.
So I just went with the flow. I had to take those few cases from our place in order to, complete my dissertation.
Right.
And then I just went with the flow and wound up with a private practice. And I had supportive people at my company who let me use my office in the city until I could afford one. That's what I mean by going with the flow. It just seemed to unfold.
Right.
And now I love my private practice.
Right. That is one of the things that I was just about to say that. Like, I've never heard you complain about your private practice. I mean, you hear me complain plenty. But I've never, you come out, you said you've had some hard days where it's like you have a full-blown depressed caseload,
Yeah.
That definitely is hard. But as long as I know you with the private practice, you always were like you were getting strength from the private practice.
Right. I get strength and I'm really inspired because I spend my days with people who are working really hard on themselves.
It's wild.
So somebody once asked me, what's it like to work with people who complain all the time? And I said, I don't know. Who does that? That's not what I do.
It's true.
These people are against all odds, against really traumatic histories. They're not giving up. They are showing up every week to better themselves and to better their lives.
Right.
And so I just have so much awe and respect for them. And it helps me grow.
Right.
So it feels kind of nourishing, actually.
Well, actually, you're the reason, you might know this, you're the reason I gave up my private practice. Well, okay.
Oops.
Not oops at all. You said something to me that absolutely floored me and is exactly what you're talking about right now, which was, maybe you take a little break, and when you love it again, you should do it when you love it. And I realize that it's been 5 years since I loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the reason that it floored me is because I didn't even think about it in that context anymore. I was so out of the I love it. It was in this world of okay, I do it, I'm good at it, and that's what I'm going to do. The idea of loving sitting with people and all that. My brother Kiwi also talks about this. Like, he loves it,
Right.
And I realized, like, it was taking strength away from me when it's giving you strength.
Right.
Like, you were walking out, and it's like what I was saying before. Like, my faith I'm struggling with my faith, and you're getting more faith.
Right.
Similar idea.
Right.
Which is, and I think it does come down to the idea that I believe I got to hold everything, and like it's my responsibility and my own issues. But I'm saying, like, and it became a weight instead of wings.
Yeah.
That has got to be. Red Bull gives you wings. I don't know what I don't know what whatever. It's a commercial.
Oh.
You don't watch TV.
I heard of Red Bull, though. I know it's a drink.
Okay. You just dated yourself. Like, that was
Not a drink?
It is a drink.
Oh.
But say I heard of Red Bull.
Oh.
Is Red Bull's pretty popular.
Pretty big? Okay.
Okay. That's pretty funny. So as I known you, you've evolved tremendously in your private practice.
Yes.
And when I asked you before, like, what do you want to talk about? You're like, Somatic IFS.
Right.
The level, one of the things I've always been incredibly amazed by is that I see people in therapists or in any profession that they kind of like, they get into their modality that they love, and they never change. Like, they could be in the field 20 years. And I've seen you just keep adding and going for trainings and keeping adding, and your excitement to Somatic IFS. So I said, we're not going to talk about Somatic IFS. We're going to talk about other things. Could you explain what Somatic IFS is and talk a little bit about that?
Okay. My pleasure and my
But also talk about the
challenge.
evolution.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, so I'll start with this
Start with
great
that.
story.
Yeah.
So the IFS, which is internal family systems, is a therapeutic modality, and I think Nefesh got the Shabbos-friendly IFS training in Brooklyn. I don't know how many years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And so it was a great opportunity for us to get trained in IFS. And I had some training in somatic work, somatic experiencing, to be specific. And I spent a few years trying to put the two together. Somehow it felt right in my system that somatic and IFS should go together.
Right.
Then one day I actually saw something called Somatic IFS. Susan McConnell had put it all together. And she was doing a training in Costa Rica. So I thought, this is it. I can go to a training and be in Costa Rica, and somebody's already done the work of putting it together.
Right. And it's Costa Rica.
And it's Costa Rica. What could be bad here?
Right.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yeah.
They have a fabulous kosher supermarket that delivers all the food you could want. I mean, everything fell into place.
Right.
A few days before I actually started looking at all the emails that had been coming in. And I noticed that this was not a training. It was actually a retreat. And it was way too late to change my mind. And so I went.
Well, what's the difference between a training and a retreat?
Right. So a training is you sit with your notebook and you write things down. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. A retreat is you experience somatic IFS. You're on the other end. You're not the leader.
You're the client.
You're the client.
Right.
And so for a week, I was on the other end of meditation and movement and breath and touch and all of these wonderful somatic experiences. And I only eye rolled for my first half day, thinking this is ridiculous. And then I feel like, dropped my guard and started experiencing and had some really wonderful experiences. Myself, watched other people have amazing experiences. And as soon as I came back, started trying, to give it over and giving other people amazing experiences. I'll tell you one core belief of Somatic IFS that I know is one of your core beliefs is that Somatic IFS believes that each person has it within them to heal themselves. And that things have gotten in the way of them doing that. And so the therapist's job then is really different. It's not to analyze, it's not to create, it's to connect and help people connect to themselves, to what's blocking them from healing and from being in self, helping those parts step aside so that the neshama, that pure soul that Hashem put within us, can shine. And once that shines, you're on the road to healing.
So it's they say in Kabbalah, the idea of like removing the klippas, removing the shells. So it's not about pulling the goodness out, it's about just revealing it.
Yes, that's right. That's a great way of saying it.
So how does that happen? Somatic IFS.
Through really being connected with, it uses the body, right?
Right, so I say it to people, and then they always ask,
what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Right.
So I'm asking you,
right.
What does it mean?
So the body is where the emotions are, right? Bessel van der Kolk wrote that very famous book at this point, The Body Keeps Score.
Right.
And while that is, let's say, more about trauma.
What does that mean? Your body holds
it
emotion.
holds things.
They pretend I know nothing.
Okay, so
which I pretty much
I'll
know
use
nothing.
anxiety as the best example because the physical symptoms of anxiety are so clearly in the body.
Right.
Right? So when you say to somebody, they say, I'm very anxious, and you say, how do you know you're anxious? What's going on in your body? So they talk about a racing heart rate, maybe sweating, maybe an inability to focus, maybe tightness in their chest, butterflies in their stomach. The somatic elements of anxiety are very easy to find. So you always use that as the example.
Right.
And then I'll say, okay, so let's just be with those physical sensations. So right away, this is the opposite of what is intuitive. What is intuitive is something hurts, let me run away from it.
Okay.
Here we're saying, oh, it hurts, there's tightness, there's butterflies. Let's be with those feelings.
It could be pretty terrifying.
It is terrifying for people, especially because they've been running away for years or decades or generations from what they feel.
Right.
Right? Our society tends to be a neck-up culture where the idea is feelings need to be stomped down, shoved aside, put away, shunned, and they're there, and then they get really big and really painful.
Right.
So overall, somatic IFS helps you then say, okay, so we've got some ways of being with it. And let's be with this fluttering in your stomach. And so we might be with it with breath, with awareness, with touch, with movement.
Right.
Right?
Wait, so hold on. First of all, two things. Can you move the mic a little closer?
Sure.
Number one. Is it going closer? All right. That's the first thing. Second thing is, since the beginning of this interview, I am feeling butterflies in my stomach.
Okay.
Would you be willing?
Sure.
Just as I don't know if I'm willing to do this, but
Sure.
you've never been my therapist, but
Right, that's true.
But
no time like the present.
no time like a present.
Okay.
Okay,
So put
use me as the.
sure.
So
put
guys,
your
you
feet
go
on the
about to
floor.
experience
Right.
and gonna be healed. Let's do this. Okay, feet on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, you're gonna have to talk everything out, even if there's emotion.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I will do that. So I heard that you spoke right away about, I'm going to be healed, and it's hard not to have an intention of fixing or healing something, right?
Okay.
You just saw it yourself. But we want to try to be a little more open.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is we're going to try to just get to know those butterflies in your stomach.
Okay.
Without trying to make them go away or fix them or heal them.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So try to notice that intention. And so first I'll try to take you through
Is this
all
a thing I
5
should be closing
steps.
my eyes for, or
Um,
keeping them
I
open?
usually suggest people close their eyes because it blocks out so much of the feedback and helps you more focus just on your stomach.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I will close my eyes.
Okay. And so just start with awareness. And so as you're aware of the butterflies in your stomach, can you tell me how large an area of your stomach it's covering?
I would say it's kind of maybe 6 inches.
Okay. And
It's like a cylinder shape.
it's a cylinder shape.
Sorry, I shouldn't have skipped around. I'm just
No, that's good. That's your awareness. And what sensations are you noticing there?
it just feels uneasy, like I am like it's churning.
Okay, so there's some uneasy churning in an approximately 6-inch cylinder-like area. Notice if that area feels warmer or cooler than the rest of your body or the area surrounding it.
It's a little cooler actually.
Okay. And just right now, this is just about awareness. And with your mind or out loud, you can certainly just say to this area in your stomach, I'm here with you. You're not alone.
Okay, I am here with you, and you're not alone.
And so then we might want to check in and see if there's any response or reaction just to your awareness, to your presence.
Yeah, it's still feeling the same. I am feeling another feeling in another part of my body now.
Okay.
Like I'm feeling like a tightness in my chest a little
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay. So you're noticing too. See if they feel connected in any way. Or if they feel like 2 separate locations.
No, they feel connected. I just don't know how. Yeah.
Okay. We're definitely not going to worry about how because that's going to bring us into that intellectual. So let's just stay with your body, which is great. And now with this awareness of things happening in 2 places, I'd like you to think about your breath for a moment. And breath is this amazing process that connects our inner world with the world around us. Sometimes when I'm looking at the plants and trees, I marvel at that beautiful relationship that Hashem has set up between us, the plants and trees. We inhale, receiving all this oxygen that the plants and trees have released. And we exhale, releasing the carbon dioxide that the plants and trees need to exist and to live. So just think about that, receiving and releasing between you and the plants and trees. And as you inhale, sending that breath both towards the tightness in your chest and the butterflies in your stomach, letting them know that you're hopeful they can receive. That this breath is for them.
definitely feels. You want to know how it feels?
Sure.
Oh. Yeah, no, it just feels much like it calm down.
Okay.
Like they're both there, but like much less.
Much
And I
less.
feel very calm.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Okay. I don't go too long because
Okay.
I don't know how boring that is on a podcast.
Right.
I have no idea.
Right.
But actually, that felt wonderful.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad.
That felt wonderful.
Great.
There is, interestingly, it's not something I mentioned, but I have had a cold for a week. I did mention that.
Right.
And it felt like it was acting up when this started. Like when we started
Oh, wow.
talking about my stomach. And
Wow. Interesting.
like taking breaths was hard.
Right. Right.
So that was interesting. I don't know what that was, but
Right. I did notice that, actually. I just noticed that in those, right after those first breaths, you didn't seem happy. There's something
I was like clogged up.
You
Yeah.
were clogged up. Okay.
And I have to, I hopefully soon we're going to go to a breath workshop, which I'm very excited about.
Wonderful.
So we'll be discovering some of this breath stuff also.
Nice.
But that was wonderful. I do confess that I've done I've done some of that work before with my own therapy, and found it to be incredibly
Right.
helpful. I wanted to show the audience what it's like, but
Good.
it was pretty great.
Well, they experienced the first two pieces of Somatic IFS, the first two practices, which is somatic awareness and breath.
Right.
And I experienced resonance, which is the connection between the therapist and the client, and kind of noticing maybe what was happening inside of you and breathing with you. And then the other two are movement and touch, which we didn't get a chance to do today.
Right.
But those practices are great. And
So we'll do that. Okay, so back into
yes.
I'm gonna end up going into a deep slumber if I
Right,
get
that's
even
the
more
thing.
calm.
It is very peaceful.
But what I wanted to know is you didn't always do this. And how has your practice changed since you've made this kind of transition? I know it wasn't in one day, but you've really transitioned from
I really have. From being a talk therapist to very little talk.
Very little talk.
Very little talk. I have made it slowly, which I think for all of us, some of the best transitions are those that are done slowly.
Definitely.
I can't really remember what I did before.
Really?
I'm almost embarrassed to think of myself.
It's like your awkward stage.
Sitting in an office, and what did I do? I just talk to people about their problems. We problem solve together, I'm sure. I don't think I did any harm. But
I know you've always been very focused on the therapeutic relationship. That was always happening.
Yes. So I feel I had good relationships with my clients. But now it just feels like it's so different. In my office, I made a really big change last week.
What's that?
I now have a yoga mat and blankets on either end as an invitation when people walk in.
Whoa.
Right? It's very different.
Trish, you're going hippie on us. Uh-oh. Wow.
It's really different. Yeah. You can feel that. Like if you walk into your therapist's office and you expect chairs or maybe a desk and a computer, and whoa, there's this yoga mat and blankets.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I know you, so that to me, that was a big move.
It was a big move.
That's a big move.
Big move.
I definitely think you thought about that for a while.
I think it came sort of organically. What happened was if people asked or if I thought it was a good idea, I would say, would you like to be on the mat? I have a yoga mat. What I love about starting on the mat is this amazing support from the earth.
Right.
Like when we stand or sit, okay, our feet, they got the ground.
Right.
But when you are on your back, it's just like amazing support.
It's wild that you said that, because I have a thing that I always said, and I thought it was hilarious, which is I love lying on the floor because you can't fall off the floor.
Right.
You just
I love that.
we're here.
Right.
This is where we are, and it's stable. But I've had conversations where they're so difficult that I need to lie on the floor.
Right.
This is not that many conversations, but they've been so difficult. Not during therapy, but I'm saying
Yes.
where I'm like, I need to feel safe on the floor.
Yes. And for your torso,
Mm-hmm.
your chest is naturally more open,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your organs are like more relaxed because they have more space, right? They're pretty tightly packed in there.
Right.
And so when you lie down, they've got a little more space.
Right.
You're not crumpling them up with your posture, kind of sitting over.
Right.
So it just feels like a really nice beginning.
Well, I love the whole concept of that you are, in regular therapy that I've been trained in, more like psychodynamic type therapy,
Right.
and which we spoke many, many hours on. But it's this idea of trying to find out the reason why. And there's a lot of like digging and finding out the reason. And I'm not against that. I think it's good to know why you're feeling this way, some ways. But it also seems like a little bit of an escape. Like I need a reason so that I could explain this so that it could go away. Where my experience with somatic or even the IFS stuff or together, it's really this idea that exactly what you're feeling right now is fine, and you're allowed to sit with it. And not only is it fine,
Yes.
it's telling you what's needed to be told. And if you listen, then you'll be all right. So there's like I have this way of explaining emotions to people, and which is emotions is like a baby in a supermarket, and they're like, I want a lollipop.
Yes.
Then they start having a tantrum,
Right.
and then so you have different options. You could ignore them,
right.
and then what happens to that baby? They start yelling
a
a lot
tantrum
more.
eventually.
You could yell at them,
Right.
like get away, or you could get down to the level, be with them. You don't have to like give them the lollipop, but just the idea of like, this is fine. My tantrum is fine right now. I could get in there.
Right.
But okay, I'm talking a lot, and I have a question at the end, but when I work with people, and I'm working a lot with addicts and all that stuff, sometimes it is so obvious to me that this person, if they just got out of their own way, they're amazing and they'll be fine. Like I see it from the outside, and I almost want to yell and pull my hair out and be like, and he's like, it's hopeless, it's over, and I'm just saying, just slightly step out of your way,
Right.
and you'll be fine. Is that really what it's about?
Right. So in the IFS and somatic IFS model, the things that are in the way
Mm-hmm.
are what we need to work with. That for whatever reason, these protectors have developed, often becoming rigid over the years, inflexible,
Right.
loud, and demanding. They're not letting you get to the core of the person, not letting you get to their self, and certainly not letting you get to vulnerable emotion.
Right.
So in old analytic theory, they might have called these defenses. And what we want to do is we want to work with those protector parts. We want to say, because they're not just going to step aside, because we say like, hey, I see this wonderful person inside of you. Can you just let go of that people-pleasing thing that you do? Just let go of that addiction.
Just let it go.
Just let it go, because I
stop.
see you're a wonderful person inside. We believe everybody's a wonderful person inside, because we believe what Hashem gave us is wonderful, or pure neshama.
Right.
Right? So a lot of the work is working with all these protectors, some of which look really good on the outside. Like when somebody is, let's say, a workaholic,
Right.
and they're super successful from how society sometimes defines success. And there other people are busy all the time and busy doing really good things.
Right.
We say, wow, what a good person. So these manager parts, right? They look fabulous. They accomplish great things and they help us accomplish great things. But they're still not letting us get to vulnerability.
Right. So, first, two things. First of all, why do we have these emotions? And second of all, why do we have to be vulnerable?
Right. Well, we have these emotions because Hashem decided not to give us just a brain.
Okay. Can you
Right?
explain that a little bit more?
Well,
Why? That is
Hashem
like,
could have made us just with a brain.
right.
And then we could just think
Like a robot.
like a robot.
Okay.
But he didn't. He made us with a lot of emotion.
What does it do for us?
It helps us fall in love and make decisions. It helps us feel gratitude. It helps us connect and have faith.
Protect us from hardships, I guess.
Feelings? I don't know.
I mean,
feelings
if someone's
protect
coming after
us.
you and you have the feeling of fear, it's maybe a
Oh,
good idea to
yes,
listen.
yes.
Okay.
Right. Those kinds of feelings can be warning things for us. The hair standing up on the back of my neck as I'm planning on walking down that alley. I think I won't walk down that alley.
Right.
Even decision making, very important to see what the feeling is.
Right.
Let's say everything looks good for this job I'm about to take, but I don't know. I think I want to spend some time walking around and getting a feel for the place.
Right.
What does it feel like? Let me talk to some people. What does it feel like to work here?
So feelings really help us navigate this whole world.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what's with the vulnerability thing?
Well, a lot of feelings are vulnerable feelings, right? Sadness is kind of vulnerable.
Yeah.
They put us in a hurt place.
But why is that the goal? You're saying
They're just there.
vulnerable is what happens when you feel your feelings.
Yes.
That's what you say.
Yes.
And you're all right letting other people or one person know, or yourself.
Or yourself, even.
To know.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I've been doing a lot of vulnerable for the last couple of years.
Yes.
And it's rough.
It is rough.
It's rough. I really miss superhero Sonny. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
flying
I do
around,
remember
saving
him.
the world.
He did. He was exhausted, though, a lot of the time.
A lot of the
flying
time.
around. Superhero Sonny. I like that. I think I remember seeing you with a cape.
Did I have a cape
I
at
think
some point?
I saw it.
You saw the
I
cape.
saw the cape.
It was like a halo of a cape. There it is. There's a cape on you.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I always meant very well, but the feeling of the feelings sometimes it's really hard because I always have like this picture of this crunchy hippie, you know what I mean? Like who's like, yeah, just stop being a wimp, get up and get out there.
Right.
And sometimes, and now I could feel, you asked me before we started, like, how you feeling? You asked that in a way that I want to cry because someone cares, not in like how you doing, like when someone. And what always goes through my head is I have to think about it because since I've gone through becoming vulnerable as a person or getting more vulnerable, I'm not there, but as we're getting more vulnerable, I realized I could feel 50, 60 emotions at once.
Right.
And then I can't even determine how I'm feeling. I'm like, I am feeling drained that this is happening. I'm feeling anxious that we're about to start a podcast. I'm feeling awesome that I did yard work all morning. I'm excited that I'm in love. I mean, and I could feel love and happiness at the same moment as hopelessness.
Right.
And it's like, it's almost like it's like just this painting and I'm that whole painting. So it's
I
hard
love
to
that.
answer. Sometimes I can't define if I'm in a good mood or in a bad mood. I can't even do
Right.
that. Is this something wrong with me, or is it?
No, you sound very, very much in touch and aware.
Yeah.
And I think when we accept that we are multifaceted and we don't try to reconcile those things. See, it's when we
Right.
think we should only be feeling one, or we shouldn't be feeling polarized feelings.
Right.
And if we just say, yes, I love my husband more than anything, and I want to wring his neck.
Right.
And so instead of trying to reconcile that, I just accept it. And so this practice of somatic IFS is a lot about acceptance.
And even as you're saying, like, it's not about healing. You're like, yeah. Say it's not. It's about being.
It's about being.
This is why I like somatic IFS
Yes,
so much. I forgot.
It's also very non-therapist centered. Like if the therapist is doing a good job, they're not talking very much,
Right.
offering no brilliant insights, and kind of stepping back and helping the client just get to themselves.
Just get themselves. So okay, so now one of the things, and I actually went to a therapist who and
Yes.
he was also doing some somatic and IFS
Yes.
work. I rolled for a long time. How do you do? I mean, I was like, he's like, reach out your hand like you're punching through something, like stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, really? I gotta do this? Like, it took a long time for me to be able to. It's almost like if I walk into a therapist's office and I saw a yoga mat, I'd be like, I think I'd turn around and walk out.
Right.
I'm not doing a yoga mat. Do not make me sit on a yoga mat. How do you address that? Like I know people listening are gonna be like, "Oh my God, that's way too much."
So I would say, so what part, right? That's the typical IFS. So let's just get to know what part of you is freaking out right now because it saw a yoga mat. And let's embrace that part.
Right. But is there did you watch an eye roller walk in,
Right.
which probably is several people you've dealt with.
Right.
Do you talk in a different like a little more chill type like a little like a little more jovial type of tune or is it immediate you are being calm or do you or do you up it okay, let's just go to where okay, let's see what you feel, instead of what do you feel in that place?
Right.
Trees.
Right.
Is there a different way of doing it to win them over?
Yes. I think obviously if I'm doing with you, I did very
You went right
low
in.
voice.
Because you know me.
But unless somebody was super duper anxious flying off the handle when they come into my office, I probably make it much more conversational.
Right.
Not so slow and quiet.
Right.
And I might say something oh, I see you spotted that yoga mat. I saw that eye roll. I remember when I used to eye roll. So I might approach it a little bit more.
Right, okay.
One of the great things about working with the Jewish community is 98% of people have a sense of humor, which is very critical to this process.
Is it?
Why? I mean, the process of being in therapy with me.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, why would you say it's critical?
I know it's a part that bonds me with people when we can share things that are ironic or funny together.
Right.
And it helps that bond and connection between me and my clients.
I also think, and I always talk about humor, like on a podcast and in general,
Right.
and I love comedy and all that. It makes us feel normal in this process. Sometimes we feel like we're so in the depth of like, ugh.
Right. So if we can crack a joke with your therapist, it's not all about what's happening inside, you
Right.
know? Like, give me a break. I want to make
It's
a
also
joke.
easy to crack a joke as a therapist because the tension is sometimes so high
Yes.
that you could snap it so easy, like because
Yes.
anything will make you laugh
Right.
at that point because the tension's so high. Okay, what other things you want to talk about? I wanted to know about somatic IFS.
I love it. It's changed my life. I think it's changing my clients' lives, and it's changing their lives fast. You know, that's another thing. People come into therapy, and they're generally in some sort of pain.
Right.
So they're not really interested. What did people used to say about psychoanalysis? 12 years, 4 hours a week on the couch. Maybe we'll get somewhere.
And then you know that your mother's the problem.
Oh, and right. So, I have seen almost magical things happen with somatic IFS, like and fast, really fast.
I think that there's a lesson in this that, because my belief is that there's no shortcuts in life, like but there are things that show you the way.
Right.
And what you just did with me, I could do that anywhere.
Yes.
I don't need to be in session with you.
Right.
I could walk into a situation, a boardroom where I'm terrified and just be like, that's all right.
A couple of these breaths in your car before walking into that boardroom.
But even without the breaths, I walk into the boardroom, I feel knots in my stomach. I think about the knots in my stomach.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, I don't do it as good as the therapist, but at some point I will.
Right.
I really love that because it really gives you tools.
It's a portable.
It's portable.
Portable skills, things that are, easy to implement. Right. And I also
if we take psychoanalysis portable, then we're just talking to ourselves everywhere, and then everybody thinks we're crazy.
Right.
Anyway, you go on. I'm sorry.
No, I think there is some relief when somebody says, those light bulb moments. I know that I now do this because my mother and then the rabbi and I connected the dots. I now know why I have butterflies in my stomach.
Right.
And there's a little bit of a relief in knowing why. But I'll just quote a client who came to me after 12 years of psychoanalysis. And she said, I have the most well-analyzed problems of anybody you will ever meet.
Okay. It's well analyzed. That's awesome.
So it's like, okay. She says, but I'm still so unhappy.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still so unhappy. But I get why I'm unhappy. So somehow there's getting it. It's not enough.
Right. It also seems like a movement, like everybody I'm talking to is trying to figure out how to make their life different. Like it's not even like we're all living in a world that doesn't seem to be working. Like I always say that we evolve too fast. Like all of a sudden we have emotions that we have to deal with or live with because we are not dying tonight. Like we're not in survival mode anymore, and all of a sudden we have all these emotions. What do we do with them? And nobody can figure out how to do it.
Right.
And I feel like any therapy modality that's taking us closer to how do I live life all the time?
Right.
Instead of how do I get help at the end of the week or twice a week?
I love that differential.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm seeing that happen. Even like I talked about psychedelics and I talk about, like there's so many different methods of breath work stuff.
Right.
It's like everybody's trying like, how do I live in this emotional world? Because we're living in an emotional world. It's not a physical world anymore.
Right.
Like I will not die. I will not die. Even if I have no money to go shopping, I will be fine. Somehow I will eat. I will sleep somewhere. For most people, that's true.
Yes.
So how do I live in an emotional world is kind of the new question. And I feel like some of the old therapies, they were touching on it, but they didn't teach you how to do it all the time. Religion does, and some of the newer stuff does. Like all the stuff I'm talking about. I could take meditation wherever I go.
Right,
I could take
that's right.
breath work wherever I go.
Yes.
I could
Yes.
take the lessons I learned from the somatic experience or the IFS wherever I go.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm just amazed by that.
Yeah. No, it really is. It's wonderful. I love where the field is going. I feel so grateful also to be in a field where you can learn still so much.
Right.
And at the same time learn about yourself and help, people connect to themselves. When I think about people who graduated with whatever degree and then they're kind of done.
They're kind of done.
And, that would be stale after a while, right? So this is such a dynamic field and so exciting.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned psychedelics. So I'm pretty sure that's next up, for psychological health.
Right.
I think we're going to figure out how to use psychedelics in a way that enhances self-esteem.
Right.
Helps people connect to themselves and lose and dump some of the burdens that they've carried with them from their childhood.
Yeah.
Well,
in my experience with psychedelics and all the people I've dealt with that talk about it, it's very similar to the same goal you're talking about with Somatic and IFS, where really, like everybody's like, I feel love and I feel connected. And what is that? That's in you all the time.
Exactly.
It's there. Psychedelics has a way of removing everything or telling you how to remove everything.
Right.
So that you could be you.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine and he just had, he did psychedelics and he just saw a line of all the people that loved him just lining up, coming over and giving him a hug.
Wow.
Next guy, I was very happy because I was one of the people in the line. But next guy came, gave him a hug, and he just came out of it going, why am I so upset? Like so many people who love me. And it was just that he was able to it did the same thing you're talking about, just removing it. And I feel like we're living in this emotional world. And to deny that we're living in an emotional world it's not happening. Everybody's feeling things all day long nowadays. And we have electrical lights, so we feel them all night too.
Right.
It's not like we can go to sleep when it gets dark.
Right.
We just keep feeling them all the time. Anyway, what kind of advice would you give, because we're wrapping up, what kind of advice would you give to a therapist coming into the field? That's the first thing. Okay. And the second one I want to know is what kind of advice would you give to people in the world today? Like, what's the message you have?
So to new therapists, I would say, first, get your hands dirty. Work in the psychiatric hospitals. Work in the addiction treatment centers. Do the hard stuff first. Don't head straight into private practice.
Right. Basically be poor for the next 10 years.
Be poor for a bit. Right, exactly.
No. That's a joke, but it's also true.
Right. But it's really important.
Yeah.
And then keep learning, keep growing. Don't ever stop learning and growing, both in terms of yourself and your practice.
Right. That's awesome advice.
So that's what I would say to somebody new. To the world, want me to say something to the world?
So you got to have a message to the world. Say, you know how many hundreds of thousands of people listen to this podcast?
I know that
30 countries. 30 I said it before.
It's crazy.
30 countries are listening to this. Almost 500 cities. You have so much to say to so many people.
I would say that first, I know it's a really hard world to live in. that I've spoken to therapists all over the world because trainings now are on Zoom.
Right.
So I met therapists all over the world, all who are overwhelmed by more clients than they can handle. So it really tells me, let me just validate. It's really a hard world to live in. And then we're each on a journey to figure out how to be our best selves to live in that world. Don't listen to what other people say. And connect with what's happening inside of you.
I love that.
I think that's about it.
That's beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for coming. That was amazing.
It was lovely being
And
here.
this felt even more meaningful to me than all the Tuesdays that we drive together home. Thank you.
You'll have to let me know feedback. I'd love to.
I will
hear
let no. We're gonna
what people
put
say.
this out pretty soon because I
Okay.
don't want to put one out on Tisha B'Av. So this will be out this week.
Okay.
So I'm really excited. And
Great.
thank you. I
All
really
right.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.